Hi guys, I hope you could see my screen. Okay, so today we'll understand promises in JavaScript. So first things first, why we even need this promise? We need promise to perform asynchronous task. So what is it? Let's say we want to fetch something from the server and this process is taking time. Okay, so what we want is we want this process to happen in the background while we go and do other stuff. Okay, we don't want our code to halt and wait for the result to come. What we want is we want this process to happen, the process of fetching to happen in the background, so that we can go and do other tasks, and whenever the result is ready from the server, that can be displayed on the screen. So that is why we use promises, so that we don't have to wait for these tasks to happen. And there is another example. Set timeout is another example of an asynchronous task, and there can be many other examples too. Okay, so let's get started. Let me show you an example. Actually, what we do is I'm writing a promise, new promise, and what happens is whatever asynchronous task we want to perform, whether it is set timeout, whether it is some fetch call, or like some geolocation calls, or whatever it is we want to perform, we wrap that task inside these brackets. Okay, so although we can also wrap synchronous task here, but then there is no use of it. So first let me wrap a synchronous task, and just so that you guys could understand how promises work. Okay, so this is new promise. Inside this bracket, this is called promise wrapper. So we could wrap any task inside it so that it could be performed in the background, while other things happen in the foreground. So let us do resolve, reject, and so this is what we call, this is a callback that will perform here. This is the asynchronous task. Now here, what is resolve and what is reject? These are the callback functions provided by this promise itself. Let me reiterate, these resolve and reject are the callback functions which are provided by the promise itself. Okay, although I could use any name here. I could say X or Y here, that doesn't matter, but I am using resolve or reject so that it is easy to understand. So what this first callback function resolve does is, it is being called when the promise is being resolved. Okay, when the promise is being successful, so that the image is being fetched from the server, that fetching is successful. Only in that case this resolve will be executed. Okay, and this reject will be executed if the promise fails, if the promise is unable to fetch the image from the server, or whatever asynchronous task it tries to perform, it is not able to perform it. Only in that case this reject is being called. Okay, and one more thing, we cannot call this resolve and reject together. Either resolve will be called or reject will be called. Okay, so understand what happens is, initially a promise is in pending state. Pending state, we don't know whether the promise will be resolved or rejected, we don't know. Okay, then promise will be either resolved or rejected. Either one of these things happen, and whatever happen, whether promise is resolved or rejected, the promise is considered to be settled. Okay, so let me reiterate, what happens is, initially a promise is in pending state, we don't know what's going to happen, then promise is either resolved or rejected. Okay, so whether it is resolved or rejected, promise finally is considered to be settled. Okay, so let me show you. Let's say we are doing something like let I equals to 7. Okay, and it is not a asynchronous task, but I am showing you so that you guys could understand. We are just storing 7 in this variable I, and then just resolve it, no, and then we'll just resolve it. Okay, now let me show you how this works. I'll call the promise here, and don't worry, I'm just typing it out and I'll make you understand what is happening. No, so what happens is, whatever I pass in this resolve, let's say I pass hi in here, this hi is being passed to this then. This is a method. So what happens is, when the promise is resolved, this then will be executed, and this then takes a function. And here it is an arrow function that I am using. Okay, so let's say we'll get response from here. I could write any name here, like I could write XYZ here, but for better naming purpose, I'll writing response here. Okay, and then I just want to console log response. Okay, so let's see first what we are getting in the console. We are getting hi in the console. Okay, why is it so? Because I told you, whatever we pass in this resolve is being further passed to this then, that is present after the promise, just after the promise. Okay, so what happens is, this then should return something. If we want to make a promise chain, what is a promise chain? Is what I could do is, I could have another then here, and then what it will do is, it will take let's say it will take response. This is, let's say this is response 1, let's say this is response 2. Okay, and this is returning, this is doing nothing but just console logging response 2, and let me just return response from here. Let me just return response into 2. What is the error? This says response is not defined. Okay, this is response 1. Okay, now first of all, don't get confused. Let me tell you what is happening here. No, so what is happening here is, as I told you, this hi is being passed down in the then. This is a then that is present just after the promise. Okay, this hi is being passed down to it. Okay, now you guys could see what we are doing is, I am just, whatever this response is, res1's value is high in the first scenario, I am just console logging it. Okay, and then I am returning res into 2, because if we have a chain of thens, then except the last then, all thens should return something, because only this res1 into 2 is then stored in res2, and here we are console logging res2. Okay, let's say we have, let me just refresh it. Okay, so res2, let's say instead of this, let's return a number. Let's return I itself. No, let's return I itself. So what is happening? First we are getting 7 due to this, then we are getting 14 due to this. Okay, but let's say if I do not return anything, I am getting undefined. First I am getting 7, then I am getting undefined, because this res2, what values will be stored in res2? No, it will be undefined, obviously, because we are not returning anything. So a then should always return something except the last then. Why except the last then? Because after that then there is no then present, so there is no need for it to return something. Okay, but except the last then, every then should return something. So let's say if I have another then here, and let's say it has res3, and I am just again console logging res3, and so in that case I am getting 714 and undefined, because this then is not returning anything. So we must return something that we want the next then to use. So let's return res2 into 3. So yeah, here we are getting 7, then 14, then 14 into 3, 42. So this is how it works. Okay, now there is one more thing which we call catch. So let me just do that, then I will make you understand what it is. So this is what we call catch. Here, this catch is, like, listen very carefully, this catch runs in two scenarios. Scenario number 1, when instead of resolve we reject something. We reject something. Okay, then whatever is being passed in this reject function is being provided to this catch as a response. Okay, so whatever, this catch is also having some response. Let's say it is an error, and we are just console logging the error. Okay, so this is what happens. First of all, either resolve or reject, either one of them will be there, both cannot be there. Okay, either a task will be resolved or it will be rejected. Okay, it cannot do both things. So yeah, so we remove resolve and we only have this reject. Okay, so yes, what I am telling is, when this catch will get executed, when the function inside this catch will get executed, it will get executed in two cases. One, when there is reject here, then all of these thens will be ignored, and only the catch will be executed. And second scenario is when any of these thens fails, any of these thens result in an error. Okay, let me reiterate, this catch will be executed, this function inside the catch will be executed in two scenarios. Scenario number 1, if the promise has been rejected. Scenario number 2, if any of the thens result in an error. Any of the thens, this then, this then, or this then, any of them results in an error. Okay, so let's run catch and just let's pass I. Now you could see, since I rejected, only this catch is running. Only this catch is running. Okay, these thens are being ignored. Okay, so that's one thing. Okay, let us perform a synchronous task inside the promise. This is a synchronous one, we just assigned 7 to I. Now let us perform the asynchronous task. And you understood one thing, no, that this resolve and reject are provided by the promise itself, this callback functions, no. So let's have an asynchronous task. Let's have a set timeout. As I told you, set timeout is asynchronous, and let's have resolve, then let's give a time of 2 seconds. Okay, so 2000 milliseconds, and then let's pass a value here. Let's pass 7 here. Okay, so in general what happens is, you guys only do these things, no, you guys just have a function here and have this parameter that is the time in milliseconds. You don't have this. So what happens is, this 7 will be passed to this function. this 7 will be passed to this function and will get the result after 2 seconds. This is what will happen. Okay, so this is the promise and this is being resolved. No, okay, we are resolving it. So what will happen actually is, I'll just show you. This 7 will be passed to the resolve. Okay, this is what will happen now. So you guys could see the result already. In the console, 7, 14 and 42. Obviously here also I am passing 7. I am passing 7 here, so 7 is being printed, then I am passing 14 to the next, then 14 will be printed, then I am passing 14 into 3, that is 42 in the next, then and 42 will be printed, and this sketch won't run. This sketch won't run because we are resolving it. This sketch will run when I'll reject it. See, I'll reject it and nearly 7 because it takes 2 seconds to run, no? So that's why it took some time. So yeah, that is all about the basics of promise. In the upcoming videos, I'll cover all the methods of promise and async, await, fetch calls and everything related to promise. Okay, so if you like this video, if you extracted some value from this video, I'll really appreciate if you subscribe to my channel. So yeah, okay guys, that's all from my side.